I'm interviewing Perle Borinstein, Perle Alex Borinstein, on February 21st, 1995, in her apartment overlooking Los Angeles. Perle, please tell me about your Uncle Solomon, your Aunt Cecile, your Aunt Gusta, and anything from that period.
What I can remember, I remembered Uncle Solomon, who lived in Philadelphia, and Tante Celia, who came to New York. When she came to New York, she came, well, the first time she came for a visit.
Do you remember that?
I didn't see her at that time, but my sister did. And then when they decided to come to America, they came as a package deal. They were not going to come to the United States. They were on their way to South America. They had sent most of their things on to South America. When they came to New York, Lazar had a brother in Detroit. And they started in, why go on to South America? Why not try to come to stay here in New York? So Lazar's brother...
What was his name?
Unfortunately, I have forgotten. They got together. Lazar came to Detroit and spoke to his brother, and they were trying to make arrangements to come to stay in America. Now, Tante Celia was not a citizen of Paris, France. Sioma was not a citizen of France because he never served in the army. Lazar was not a citizen of France. He never served in the army. The only citizen was Pauline and Jean-Pierre and Philippe. So this was going back and forth for a long time. And
what do you mean by back and forth?
They were going back to New York and then coming to Detroit. And
this was in, can you give a date to this?
Well,
1937, but when?
I'll tell you when. We were married for 1 year. We were married about 1 year when they came here.
When were you married?
We got married and we came to Detroit.
When did you get married?
Let's see, I was 24. I even forget. 24.
Well, let's say it was 1936.
Yes,
what month did you get married?
June.
Okay.
Anyway, they spoke to Manny, and at that time...
So you think this was June of 1937?
It could have been, maybe June, July, something like that. They spoke to Manny, and Manny at that time knew the governor of Indiana. And through usually politics and knowing this one, knowing the right person, they try to see whether they can establish a residency. And they'd have to become a citizen before they can become a United States citizen, because they were people without a country because they weren't the citizens of France. They lost all the records in Russia. They ever had the records. So they had to establish the fact that they had to become a citizen. So
of France?
No, citizen of some country. So they went to Windsor, Canada, and the first one that went there was Tante Celia, and she had to stay there maybe for a couple of weeks or so, you know. But she did. And then I think Sioma went there, and I think Lazar. Meanwhile, they bought a Buick, and they were going back and forth, traveling back from New York to Detroit. In the interim, they were staying with me on Cherry Lawn. And we decided what we were going to do with the children. Pauline had to come back with them. So Manny made arrangements for them to go into a French nursery school, which they did, because I know that Jean-Pierre was walking, so he maybe was about 3 years old.
Philip, you mean?
Philip, I mean. And then he got sick, and then
So where were they living, the kids? With you?
with me.
And every day you would take them to the nursery school?
No, they were staying there. I think weekends we had them.
Oh, my goodness.
Weekends we had them.
This was a nursery school where you could board 3-year-old children?
I think that's what it was. I'm pretty sure
Sounds
that's
more
how
like
it
an
was.
orphanage.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't. Well, no, because I remember we didn't take them back and forth. But there for a while they were staying with Lazar's brother.
Who lived in Detroit?
Yes, who lived in Detroit. But when Tante Celia had to come, she had to stay with me until she went to Windsor. She only stayed with me. Pauline and Lazar were staying with the brother, and I think that's where the children were
So why
too.
was she going to New York for anything?
They were trying to get established in New York, hoping that they'll be able to, because, of course, Pauline was a citizen, so she had no problem. But
Why wasn't she, for instance, just hanging out in Detroit with the kids until this
because
citizenship
they were I think they were trying to make arrangements of some kind to open up a place.
Now, did they come with funds? It sounds to me like they came with things, money.
They came with money. By the time they got here, the franc had dropped, and they lost a lot of money, practically half their money, from what I can remember.
Their belongings, that is furniture and stuff like that, had already been sent to South America?
It was on its
To
way.
Ecuador?
I think that's where it went,
Uruguay? Uruguay.
someplace.
Uruguay, that's what it was.
And they sent fabrics and things like that.
So how did they get that back?
They got that back through, that I don't recall.
So some of the furniture that I remember in my grandmother's house was from
some
France.
France, yes.
Uh-huh.
Now, they finally found an apartment in New York.
I didn't quite understand. They came to see you, they came through New York to Detroit, or they came through Canada to Detroit?
No, they came to New York and then to Detroit.
So they were on their way to Uruguay,
America.
South America, and they decided to stop and visit cousins in Detroit.
No, they stopped in New York. And when they stopped in New York, like I say, Lazar had the brother in Detroit, and he went to see his
To visit,
brother to
right,
visit.
okay.
And that's where the conversation went, why try to go there? Why not try to stay in America?
Okay, at this point, go like a camera and back and see if you can remember their personality types, what you remember of all these people's
What
styles
I
and stuff.
remember is the fact that Pauline and Lazar were just like cat and dog. They was arguing all the time. It was a constant dissension between the two of them. And there were times that everything was very nice. I mean, that they got along. But most of the time, there was a lot of dissension between the two of them.
And how did Cecile work into this?
Well, she at that time was in New York, and she had the apartment, and she was taking care of the children while they were going back and forth.
I thought you said the children were in the French nursery school.
Yes, while they were negotiating back and forth, so that's where they had to take the children someplace to take care of them.
Uh-huh.
So, and I remember that one time that Philippe, he was a little one, got sick. And he came to the house, and Tante Celia took care of him at that time because she was staying at my house. Then, when they finally got themselves established, it took quite a bit before they had to stay in Windsor for a certain length of time and so forth for them to
Become Canadian citizens?
They had become Canadian citizens before they become United States citizens.
You only have to be in Canada for a couple of weeks to become a
Well,
citizen?
it was all prearranged, honey. This is all, with politics, you can do anything.
Oh, so that was the part that Borinstein Granny played.
Yes. Now, they came back. They were in New York. Now, they had this apartment. Tante Celia took care of the children.
This is at Central Park South.
No,
This is on Madison Avenue.
That was before Central Park
Madison
South.
Avenue.
They had a large apartment. And they were trying to find a place to start in their business.
Wait a minute, you're going ahead fast again. Tell me more about Lazar.
What was going on?
Tell me about Sioma. You haven't mentioned him at all. Was he like a fifth wheel in this? Was he,
Sioma was at that time going back and forth, running back and forth like crazy, trying to get the place established.
How long does it take to go from New York to Detroit in those days?
Oh, at that time, maybe 4 or 5 hours.
By train?
No, by plane, I think.
They were going by plane all the time?
I think by plane, yes. I'm pretty sure it was.
Now, they were all very well dressed. They all made their own clothes. They made a very good business as tailors.
Oh, yes, they were all very well dressed.
But they seem to have made a very good business as tailors in Paris. Is that your impression?
Well, you see, Pauline's father had a business, was a tailor, and he had a shop. And he opened up a shop for Pauline. And for Tante had it like a resale shop.
Yes.
And that's what happened. They had a resale shop in Paris, and the father was the tailor.
Pearl's looking at a picture of the shop.
How do you like that? Isn't that something?
But by the time they came to America, he was dead.
Oh, yes.
And Sioma and Lazare and Pauline were working together.
That's right. Pauline, Lazare, and Sioma were working together. I don't think there was ever a good feeling between Lazare and Sioma. I don't think there was ever a good feeling.
Could you pick up any hint of the fact that they used to be best friends?
No, because I didn't know anything about their association or how they were in Paris at all. But I know that Sioma was absolutely crazy about Pauline. He idolized her. Pauline could do no wrong. That was in the beginning.
What was her style with him?
Rough.
So it really hasn't been any different from way back.
No, rough.
And what was she like with the children?
She don't think spent that much time with the children. She was just too busy to try to get herself established in business. So it was really Sioma that tried to guide the children. When they got older, he opened up a charge account at, I think maybe for Chano's or one of the bookstores. They could go in and buy whatever they wanted to. He paid for that. He saw to their education. He saw to the schools that...
How did you know this?
From Sioma.
Oh, well, I mean, that's
from
not...
Sioma and also from Tante Celia.
What would she tell you about her children and grandchildren?
Well, I think she realized that Sioma was what they call a gute Neshama. You know what that means?
A good soul.
A good soul, and that Pauline was a rough one. Pauline was very demanding. Pauline had a bad temper. Pauline used to yell at her mother. I was there and I heard that myself when she yelled at her mother. And this is going ahead now when her mother was so very sick, she didn't come to see her that often, but Sioma did. Because she complained that time when I went to see her. She says she very seldom sees Pauline. Pauline was just involved with Pauline. She was involved with herself. She has always been involved with herself.
Yeah, she took her mother to the country every weekend.
Yeah, she did. But you know why? Because she couldn't leave her mother anyplace else.
Well, she could have stayed for the weekend in New York.
Well, it was hot, don't forget, and it was uncomfortable. And this way she took her mother. Honey, it was her duty to do that.
Okay, so let's give her that for credit.
Yeah, it was her duty to do that. But, well, I'll never forget the time. Now, this is going ahead. I was in New York visiting. That's when Pauline and I had more or less a falling out. And I was with a friend of mine who Pauline knew. She used to buy her clothes. And I called her, and I said, oh, Pauline, I'd love to see you. She said, okay, I want to see you also. So I says, well, it's your convenience. She says, well, I tell you what, how about Saturday morning? I said, that's fine, just tell me what time. I didn't want to invade her privacy in any way. So she told me what time, and I got there, and she is absolutely going crazy. She's yelling, and she's screaming, and she's carrying on. And I said, oh, Pauline, I says, you told me to come. I don't have time for you. I cannot see you. I'm going to the country. I got to pick up Mother, and I'm late now. She said, I'm sorry, I can't see you. I said, Pauline, I didn't come here uninvited. You invited me. And she was screaming at me like this. I said, okay, Pauline, goodbye.
What year was that?
Well, Tante Celia was still living, so I can't remember exactly what year it was, but we were living in Detroit at the time. So I was embarrassed for my friend Rose and all. Anyway, that night I saw Sioma and I told him about it. He says, I'll see you Sunday. I want you to pick out the clothes. I used to buy clothes like a bar used to buy clothes. I really bought a lot of clothes. And he said he'd meet me, and I was very hurt. I said, well, that's the end of Pauline as far as I'm concerned. I said, I don't feel that I should be treated the way I was treated. And I said, she invited me. I did exactly what she told me to do, and I said she had no reasons yelling at me that day. She called me, and she got back from the country and wanted to see me, and I said, I'm very busy, Pauline. I can't see you. And I didn't talk to Pauline for many years. And Sioma was the one that kind of got us, brought us together. She was, and I think still a tough cookie. I don't know whether she's mellowed at all, but she is a tough lady. And then, of course, I don't know if you know this or not, she got involved with this Italian fellow who made jewelry. Did you know about that? And then...
How did you know about it?
Sioma told me. I knew about it. You hear about this in the family. You hear different things.
This is while Lazar was still around?
Yep. And then they decided to separate, and Lazar disappeared. Nobody knew where Lazar was. Nobody. They didn't know what. I think
Do you know what year this is already?
Well, Jack was still living, and he was living in...
Don't cover your mouth.
Jack was living in California at that time. I don't remember what year. I can't remember. But we were already living here. And we came here when Joni was 6 years old. So it was around that time.
Lazar, no.
He disappeared.
No, Joni is a year younger than I am. Lazar was, I think, out of the picture before I was born.
I tell you, he was sure. They separated, and nobody knew where he was. And what I'm trying to bring to think back now is that they didn't know what happened to him. And Jack saw him either walking or on a bus and followed him and found out where he was.
In New York?
Here.
In California?
Yes. And right after that, he went to Kansas City. And he went to work for a family, also in the tailoring business, I think men's tailoring, so maybe ladies' tailoring. And he wound up marrying either the daughter, whoever she was. And that before he married her, that's when they got a divorce. And that was the end of Lazar. I haven't seen Lazar since then.
Do you recall, what was the year that they split up? I can get this from other people. But
I don't remember.
So they
There
were
was a lot of dissension.
They weren't together very long in the States.
Here's what happened. They opened up a place called Trigère, Sioma, Pauline, and Lazar. And they opened up their first collection. And when they opened, and they needed money for their first collection, and that's where the money part came in. So they asked Celeste's husband, Charles Flaxman, for some money, and they also asked Manny. And this is what happened. They gave it to him. When?
Only two people?
As far as I remember, for their collection. And that collection did not go over because Pauline was still designing in the Parisian way, and the American people were not accepting whatever she designed or he designed. So they lost that. And when they lost that, Charlie Flaxman got very, very upset. He wanted his money. And they didn't have it. So Pauline went to work in a loft for Hattie Carnegie. And Sioma went to work for, what is that? They make gorgeous ties.
Countess Mara?
He went to work for them. They had beautiful robes and ties, and they had a place on Fifth Avenue. Isn't that funny? I can't remember. It might come to me. Anyway.
Did they do other things, like leather goods? Like Mark Cross?
Mark Cross. Went to work for Mark Cross. With ties.
I guessed it.
With ties and with robes and all that. And he went to work with them. And that's when they,
Sales.
Yes. And that's when I think they broke up at that time, Bradley Trigère. And that's, I think, when he disappeared or something like that. We didn't know what happened to him. I can't remember the year that was. So, now Charlie demanded his money, and they didn't have it.
What about Manny?
But Manny realized their position. So Pauline said to Manny, look, I have jewelry. I have a diamond bracelet or whatever she has. I'll give you that. Manny said, absolutely not. I don't want it. And I don't want to hear about it.
What kind of money are we talking about, by the way?
Sweetheart, I don't remember what the deal was.
What, did it seem like a lot?
It could have been, especially in those days, it could have been a lot of money. I haven't any idea. But she offered her
It
jewelry.
was a significant amount.
Yeah, but she offered her jewelry. Manny would not take it. Absolutely not. He wouldn't do that. And, I'm sorry. And then, I don't know whatever happened with Charlie Flaxman, but I know he was very upset, and that broke up the relationship, that he wouldn't let Celeste have anything to do with Sioma. He felt that Sioma was in love with Celeste. They were first cousins, and Charlie was that kind of a person. He thought that Sioma was in love with Celeste.
What kind of business was he in?
Tailoring,
Oh. And what kind of business was Manny in?
motor machinery.
That's a good match. Okay.
Well, anyway, so that's what happened with Lazar. That was the end. I haven't seen
So what
it.
year was that they failed? So they came in summer of 37.
I'd say maybe 2 years later. I'm approximating 2 years
Okay.
later. So now, after Pauline went to work for Hattie
So in
Carter,
the meantime, Cecile is the main caretaker of the children.
Yes.
So tell me what she was like.
She was, as far as I knew her at the time that I spent with her, a very sweet lady. This is just hearsay, so I don't know, that Tante Rose and Tante Celia were both very envious of Tante Yeva, as Solomon's wife, when they got married. In the first place, he absolutely idolized her.
Yeva.
Yes. He gave her everything that he possibly could give her
That's his
financially.
wife.
That's right. And
Did they get married in
they
Europe?
got married in Europe and came to Philadelphia.
Women in Europe where?
It's like in Odessa,
In Odessa?
I think so. Sure, because my mother's from Odessa, so is Tante Yeva. But Uncle Solomon lived in,
I thought my grandmother was born in Kiev.
well, I was going to say, Uncle Solomon came to Odessa, but they all knew each other. The whole family knew each other. That's what I say. Your grandfather, Alexander, and my father, they all knew each other.
In Odessa or in
Probably
Kiev?
in Kiev and Odessa, because it was a whole family together. They knew each other. In fact, my father worked for Uncle Solomon's father in the tailor shop.
Your father,
Worked for
Isaac Alex,
Worked
worked
for
for Herschel, Solomon's father.
Solomon's father. Right.
So Solomon's father did what? What did he do for a living?
Tailor.
He was a tailor. Now I have an enormous portrait of him. It's an enlargement. Well, it's not an enlargement. It's a.
That's your great-grandfather.
My great-grandfather, and he looks like a very rich man.
He was a tailor, and my father was an apprentice. And I think Uncle Solomon also was with him, or so. I don't know how the whole thing was. I do know that.
What did Solomon do when he came to America?
What did he do? I think he was also in the tailoring business. Either that or a presser or something.
And he came to New York, or he came to
Yeah,
where?
they came to Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
First they came to New York, and then they moved to Philadelphia.
Do you know
That's
why?
what happened.
What pulled him down to Philadelphia?
Probably work or something. I really
And he
don't
lived
know.
there most of his life?
Yes. And
All of
Celeste,
his life.
yes, Celeste was born, Celeste, Jack, and Paula were born in Russia. And Ruthie was born in Philadelphia. But from what I heard my mother saying and all that they really were very jealous of Tante Yeva.
Okay.
And whether there was such a close relationship or a good relationship or not, that I don't know. But they say Tante Rose really was quite a quite a humdinger herself, you know. She's, I think she gave my aunt Yeva a hard time.
Well, wait a second. Did they go from Russia directly to America? So that means that
They went from there.
they were all living together in their father's and mother's home, or stepmother's home, whichever. And then Solomon married
Eva,
Eva, and he married Eva in. It says here he married in 1900 to Yeva. Tsipa married Alexander 1 year later. Gusta, I don't know when she married.
she got married in Philadelphia.
And Rose married in 1904. I was trying to figure out if Rose married in
He
France.
was married first, though.
He was married first, so that makes sense.
That's right.
So there was two unmarried sisters who.
That's very
okay.
jealous.
Right, and I think 1904 is when when Sioma and Cecile left Russia to join Alexander in Paris. And it says that Rose married Georges Wexler in 1904. I was trying to figure out if Georges was a Frenchman of some other extraction, or was he one of the Russians also?
I think they knew him. I think it was one of the Russians.
No Russians.
I'm pretty sure because I remember my father mentioning Wexler, and my father knew them.
So all these people were leaving, getting out of Russia, and they were going to France. That was the country of choice.
But Solomon then came to New York and then Philadelphia. Then later years, they went back to New York, and then I think she died.
So he left and went to New York in between 1906 when Jack is born and between 1908 when Ruth is born. So this
was born in the United States?
Yes.
Yes. Then Celeste and Paula was born in Russia.
Yeah, I have that. Okay, so this means that he came to America, let's say in 1907, and he didn't get to see his sister Cecile until 1931.
Oh, she came for a visit.
That's amazing. And did he ever get to see Rose? I don't think Rose ever came to America,
no,
did
she? Never did.
And did he ever go to Paris?
Couldn't afford it. Didn't have any money. They went. In fact, when Celeste got married, they had to help the folks out. They really didn't have that much.
Okay, so now that I know that they all know each other from back in Russia, I have to assume that whatever held for your family was basically. You want to get the phone? So what I was saying was, well, if these people were all friends back in Odessa or in Kiev, then let's assume safely that they were all living basically the same lifestyle.
Yes.
So please tell me what you know from the things that your parents have told you, what their lives were like in Russia, and what their grandparents' lives were like, if you know anything like that.
Well, I know that my grandparents, they all lived together. My grandparents, there was a daughter, of course, Eva, Clara, Mary, my mother, Toby, and they had a son also. And as far as my father's family is concerned, I don't know anything about his parents at all, but he had 3 brothers. You don't
For
want to know
my
about that.
purposes, I don't need to know the
No,
names.
no.
For your granddaughter's purposes, you should sit down and do that.
We have that.
But I want you to
have
tell me.
that.
I want you to tell me what you know of what their lives are like, what their homes are like, what the ambiance was like, what the Jewish content was, what it wasn't, what it was.
My grandparents and my grandfather, grandmother, were very devoted parents. They loved their children. They are concerned about the children. They only want for their happiness. And when my Aunt Eva married Solomon and moved away, I'll never forget my grandmother, because I knew my grandmother, says, it's like losing.
Weren't they happy that they were getting out of Russia? What was the sense?
Well,
Did they talk to you about
grandparents
that?
were still in Russia when my aunt left for New York when she got married. Then my Aunt Claire, then my Aunt Eva wanted my mother and my sister to come, and her sister to come to America. They were very young at the time. So my grandmother packed up all the goodies and everything, and they put them on a ship, and they sailed, the two young people, to America. The only one was left then was my Aunt Mary. In the interim, they had a son who was a pharmacist, and he was in an explosion in the pharmacy, and he got killed. And after that happened, then my aunt sent for my grandparents to come from Odessa to New York.
What year was that?
Oh, honey, I don't remember.
Was it before the revolution or after the revolution?
I think it was after.
After 1917?
I think so.
Did they talk to you about what Odessa was like during the
Oh, my
Potemkin?
mother loved Odessa. My mother loved it. They were going through a pogrom, and my mother never looked Jewish, and she used to dance in the street so they could not kill them. And they had some neighbors. That's how they were non-Jewish people, and they used to keep them like in their cellar when this pogrom was going on. But my mother says that she actually saved her own life by dancing in the street, thinking that she's one of the
happy ones.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm. But
what was the cultural and Yiddishkeit like?
Very, very, very Orthodox.
Your family was Orthodox?
Oh, yes.
You mean they kept kosher?
Oh, yes.
And they kept all the holidays?
Oh, yes. My mother kept kosher.
No, but more than that. Did they do more than just Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah and Passover?
Oh, every Friday night my mother didn't go. My father didn't go. But my grandmother used to go to the synagogue every Friday night.
Now, do you suppose that that's the same thing for the other families we're talking about?
No, because Tante Claire married her boyfriend's sweetheart, who was not Jewish.
Who, Tante Clara?
Yes, Tante Clara. My sister,
your Eva's sister. Yeah.
Married Karl Kalbas.
In Russia?
In Russia. Was it in Russia they got married? No, they got married in the United States because she came as a young girl to the United States. Karl came over, I think.
No, when I said the other families, I didn't mean Eva's sisters.
Solomon.
I meant the three families we talked about, which were, you said that Solomon, Alexander, and who was the third you said that knew each other?
Wexler.
And Wexler.
They were all boyhood friends in Russia.
So, okay. Now Solomon's family, okay. So what we're talking about now is Eva's family.
That's right.
So Eva then married somebody who was of a less religious nature then?
I think so.
Okay, do you know anything about these people somebody said to me that they didn't observe anything in Paris, and it was only when they came to America that they started doing things like a Seder.
I know my grandparents were religious in Russia, in Odessa. I knew that.
Mm-hmm. So that doesn't necessarily...
But I don't think that Eva was that religious.
Okay.
And Clara wasn't.
Okay. So they married sort of people who were more liberal.
Solomon wasn't that religious.
Okay. So did he seem to know anything?
Oh, sure. He knew everything about the Jewish religion, but they never kept it. I'm sure he kept the holiday. They kept the holiday. You know what I mean? Like every day, they'd have a dinner for the Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur.
But no one went to synagogue.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
And there's no way you would know whether it was they going away from it or it was they were doing exactly what their father Herschel had done,
This
you can't tell.
But I do know that my father wasn't that religious, but since my grandparents lived with us and kept a very kosher, strictly kosher house, and my father used to go for the high holy days to the synagogue, but otherwise he never went.
Did Siona and Pauline and Lazar and Cecile and the boys, were they with you at a time during, if they came in July, Were they with you for Rosh Hashanah and Kippur?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't
Did you
think so.
ever meet any of these people during Jewish holidays? No. Do you know the name Seal and Reuben Newman?
Yes, they were very good friends of Pauline and Selma. He was an
Do you know
orchestra
why?
leader.
Do you know why?
Let me think now. I know they were very, very good friends. I don't know how Pauline met them, but I know they were very close friends.
Okay, I remember visiting them as a child, but I couldn't
Uh-huh.
figure out what the connection was.
They were very good friends.
They were
He had an orchestra leader.
Right, a band leader.
Band
Mhm.
leader.
Can you tell me more about Cecile? I really don't know much
About your
about
grandmother?
her. Yeah. If you hear certain people describe, I'll give you some examples. She was always protecting her son and trying to get her daughter to behave nicely with her son. She was she overprotective of Sioma?
This I can't tell you, but I know.
Did he seem like a mama's boy to her?
No,
to you?
no, but he had a lot of respect for her. He respected her in every way
Mm-hmm.
and spoke sweetly to her. There was nothing like Pauline, her attitude. But I think that they had a very good relationship.
Well, this woman, it sounds like Alexander was a very hot-tempered man.
Could be. Maybe Pauline takes after him.
Gwyn says that Sioma has never spoken much about him
Uh-huh.
and only said that he used to have a terrible temper. Pauline says basically the same thing.
Uh-huh.
It must not have been easy to be his wife.
Probably not.
Did she seem like a woman who could take care of herself, or was she lucky to have children who were taking care of her?
I think she was capable. I mean, Cecilia?
Yeah.
I think she could. Honey, if the children were in her, as you say, in her custody, and she had to take care of the children, she had to assume the responsibility.
Well, it's taking care of two little
Well, I
kids
know,
without
but
being a mother.
it's a responsibility when the mother was never there, practically.
Could she have supported herself?
No,
No.
not at that age, when they
well,
came here, no.
Sioma was already 34.
Uh-huh.
Pauline was 28, I don't know.
But no, I don't think she could. In fact, I know she couldn't. She ran the whole house.
Did you ever meet, or you didn't meet Leon Hendline, who came and lived with
Leon?
her?
I met him many, many years ago. Uh-huh.
Do you remember, when was that?
Well, I used to go to New York, and I met him through Pauline, and had dinner at Pauline's one time, and
He came, he followed them. He worked for them in Paris.
That's when he followed them, yes. They thought very high, they were very close to him. He was like a relative, that's how close they were.
Uh-huh. Did you ever hear them talking about their business in France? What language did you speak to each other in?
Yiddish.
All of them spoke in Yiddish to you? My father too, huh?
Oh, sure.
Because I didn't discover he spoke Yiddish until I married Larry Besserman, when I heard him speaking Yiddish
Sure
to my
he did.
to my
Well, I spoke
father-in-law.
English to him. He spoke English.
He spoke a halting English. Where did you learn English?
I don't know where you learned it, but when he came to Detroit, I spoke English to him. Tante Celia spoke Yiddish.
Well, how was
My
his
broken
English?
Yiddish.
How was his English?
Huh?
My father.
Understandable.
Better than the new immigrants we have now?
I think so. I
Really?
think so. Yeah,
How about Pauline?
Pauline spoke English. I spoke English to Pauline.
So where did these people learn English?
She probably learned when they went to school in Paris. Or they learned, I can't tell you, but we spoke English to them. I spoke Yiddish to Tante Celia. She spoke, broken a little, she didn't know a few, but she could handle herself okay, but I spoke Yiddish. My broken Yiddish, when I came to Paris to call on Tante Rose, I spoke such a broken Yiddish that she didn't understand me, and Nadine was there, and Nadine understood, and it was translating from me to Tante Rose in Yiddish. I would say something in Yiddish, and she would say in Paris, in French, to Tante Rose.
Well, Nadine speaks beautiful English.
She spoke Yiddish too.
So,
My sisters, they correspond, they talk to each other.
Who?
My sister Nadine.
That's interesting.
But anyway, but my hearsay that my father was crazy about Aunt Cecilia, before he mentioned this was in Russia yet. And I don't know whatever happened. I guess when she married Bexler, I think he was a little upset about it. But he actually came to New York to see her when she was so sick.
No, so, Trigère, not Bexler.
No, when Cecilia married
Trigère.
Trigger.
Yeah, Trigger.
Trigger.
Did they say Trigger?
Well, there's Trigger. When they came, they changed it to Trigère.
But I think they pronounced it with a soft G in France.
Trigère.
Anyway,
They did.
when they came over, they were
Trigère.
Triger.
Yeah, that's right. And then they put the apostrophe.
Do you know the story about how my father called himself Robert?
Mm-hmm.
Tell
He
me.
liked Robert Montgomery. He liked the actor Robert Montgomery.
And so he just picked Robert?
So he changed his name to Robert. And we never called him that. It was always Yama.
Uh-huh, right. Did everybody think that was odd?
Well, just changed his name. He was in love with Robert Montgomery. Because they asked him, did you know the story?
No.
You didn't?
I did know that. I'd never actually heard somebody.
I was crazy about him. I was very close to him. I really was.
Sioma.
So was Manny. He was very close to him. I had such empathy for him. I don't know. It just seemed like, in a way, he seemed, you know what a nebbish means? That's how I felt. I felt that Pauline always took advantage of him. Honey, he used to schlep those great big metal cases. Jenny, you knew in Florida, you were a little girl at that time when he sent you to was it South America, he said that time? We were standing there when you left, and we were all, Maddie was crying, I was crying, and Father was crying. It was just a terrible situation. But you know something? He always had a soft heart. He was a good neshama. That's all I can express myself.
Do you know anything about something that happened in the mid-50s, perhaps, that was a serious breakup between Pauline and Sioma that really began something?
Well,
Did he used to confide in you?
yes, if I recall,
Something that happened around Bermuda.
it happened what?
Bermuda.
Letter that he wrote me, I think I still have that letter, that he wrote me that if anything happened to him, he would like for me to invest in business with Gun. I have to find that letter. Do you want me to send it to you if I find it?
What did you think of it when you got it?
I was a little upset because he was thinking that lie because he wanted to protect Gun. He really wanted to protect her in every way he possibly could. And that's what he said. He says he wanted me to be like a partner to Gwen in the business. And when I got the letter, I talked to him and I said, no, we have our own business and I don't think it would work out. But,
So did he ever confide in you in the late 50s about things really being very awful at work?
well, he used to talk about Pauline, that he felt that, I think that he felt that Pauline gave him a raw deal.
So do you think he was the kind of person it was easy for him to complain about other people but didn't see the part
He
he
didn't.
played himself?
He didn't complain about too many people.
No, but about her, but didn't see the part that he had played in it.
No.
You don't think he saw the part he played in it? Not at all.
But
I'm
I'll tell
going
you,
to turn this off a second. I want you to read this.
the guidance, everything that your father did for these two boys, honey, was just, they prided themselves because they got a very fine education because he saw to it.
Well, you don't think that Pauline was paying for their education? The business, they together were paying for it, not just Sioma.
Yeah, I know, but who's there to guide them? He was the one that was guiding them. He's the one that encouraged them to get certain books. He's the one that encouraged them to do certain things.
Yeah.
He took the father image.
Listen, can we talk again on the phone?
I'd love it.
From Massachusetts?
Sure, sweetheart.
I can-
Reverse the charges. I don't want you to pay for it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll continue
All
some
right,
other day.
sweetheart. I will.
Good, because I have some more questions.